Is the A-10 something that you may think is a viable option?
Of course.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, in terms of if they had A-10s and A-10 drivers, you bet. I mean, I in terms of any airplane for any conflict, I don't think this is where you're framing the question, but whether it's F-16s for Ukraine or A-10s for whomever, and there's going to be a lot of talk about A-10s for a lot of people now that this year, this fiscal year that just got underway, they've got 42 A-10s being retired, C models, and I think the timetable for the total retirement of the A-10s will be moved up, frankly, because there's a lot of talk now that it's kind of a fait accompli. The F-35 production line, they're claiming that they could crank those out faster and get those in service faster if we didn't have the drain on supply chain and personnel of the A-10. So I think once they decide to retire something, it's going to go faster than we think. But so there's going to be a lot of talk about A-10s for a lot of places, and I fall on the side of by the time you get any airplanes to some other country, you get pilots trained and maintainers trained, and the supply chain of parts and all that stuff, the conflict will be over. But if they had A-10s, absolutely, man. I mean, again, I watched. I guess it was the first morning of the response of Israel, and you could see the LGBs coming down, into those buildings, but I just think, in terms of insurgents and terrorists, and the guy on a motorcycle or the back of the truck with a AK, something about A-10 is going to go in there and be able to see that conflict developing, see where the good guys are and see where the bad guys are, and put down some very, very lethal fire, very close to friendly troops with very little, if any, collateral damage. And I'm sorry, you're just not going to do that from an F-16 screaming in.
Well, they got the gun. I mean, you've got the gun as the most surgical weapon. Now they've got laser rockets, but
but the gun, absolutely. I mean, that's my point. Is that gun, those bullets are going exactly where your airplane's pointing, and they're getting there really fast. It's a huge projectile. It's not going to be affected by wind or bullet drop. It's just going to go where you're pointing at, and put 70 rounds a second down in about a 3-meter circle. It's a heck of a weapon. And then be able to take a lot of punishment. Be able to take the guy, blasting away at you with an AK-47. A-10's going to laugh at him for the most part. So, and that's the thing, is that in these kind of conflicts, obviously they really would have benefited Ukraine, an aircraft like that in those early days when they were all bogged down in the mud, miles long in convoys.
Yeah, the tanks. I mean, obviously that's what it was originally designed for, but it's really shined in this.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it's, and an aside to that or whatever is that I think America is going to be very, very sad that they retired the A-10. There's many, many uses for it. Maybe and again, half the numbers that we have now, which is half again of what they built. But there's a darn good use in a lot of places for a couple squadrons of Hogs, for sure.
Oh yeah.
I just cannot understand why anybody can't see why we need A-10s or a viable A-10 replacement.
Right.
Don't tell me the freaking F-35 can do that, because another great A-10 driver, Pig, was telling me a story once. He was in Afghanistan supporting troops on the ground, and some F-16s came in because they were getting low on gas, bombs, probably all the above. They were passing the sit rep.
We're tired of being there.
Right. We did too much killing day. But no, the F-16s were like, hey man, how's the weather? He's like, below 3,000, it's great. The F-16s are like, what? We can't go down there. And I mean, the A-10's just down there laying waste, right? So I mean,
absolutely,
there's absolutely a place for a heavily armed and armored, slow flying tank, dude.
I know we're going to talk about the Frogfoot later, and it's the same thing. But it's certainly valid to say that the airframe is reaching its lifespan. In fact, it's gone past it. They re-winged all the airplanes that are in service now. to extend them, this far. But and it is expensive to stretch out the life of an aircraft like that. But it's still a bargain. It is a Dollar Tree bargain compared to an F-35 in terms of what it costs to maintain the thing per flying hour, and just what it costs to acquire it. But we're just down this road again of putting all of our eggs in one basket. I'm not saying the F-35 is an awesome aircraft. From what I know about it, it has some unbelievable capabilities. I mean, it's a game changer in a lot of arenas. Unless you're flying within 25 miles of lightning, for instance, or something. But my point is, that's a joke a little bit, but it's not. They can't fly within 25 miles of lightning, and so but it used to be 50. but my point is, there's limitations to that GWAS technology, up to and including EMPs. That's one you might want to consider.
Shanghai, that's exactly right. Right. We were talking about the A-10 when it was Ukraine. We were like, well, wouldn't be useful because of we got to look at the next conflict. And the next conflict is going to be contested, denied, degraded environment with SAMs and these air-to-air threats. And now look where we're back. We're right back in the Middle East against insurgents that have no air picture, that just need surgical, urban combat, surgical precision strikes with a gun or supporting soft forces or whoever.
Yeah. And frankly, when you know where the SAMs are, even the mobile SAMs, and with the effective jamming plan, whether it's standalone jammers like we had EF-111s, for instance, EA-6s, and then we had an ALQ-131 jamming pod on our aircraft. So, you put enough trons out there, an acceptable miss distance for the missile, give yourself time and altitude to see the missile coming at you. You can defeat missiles with maneuvering as well. And so, is it a tough environment? Is it dangerous? Are you going to have some losses? Of course you are, but you can do those things, in what would be considered a heavy IADS type environment with relatively low tech aircraft in terms of who's going down the chute. Put some F-35s out there and some, jam the trons, whatever they do. Just make a corridor to bring the bomb carriers in and put the stuff down the chute. They're talking about, we're gonna fly over at 25,000 feet and just drop, these small diameter, GPS bombs on them. Well, I mean, I don't know, maybe, but in a fluid troops in contact situation, I don't think so. And ask any ground pounder, I mean any of them that have seen any kind of action. You can have any aircraft show up for this troops in contact situation where you're taking direct fire, from across the road in that tree line. Who do you want? I mean, there's no question. I'll bet everything I got right now on
we know the points.
We'll take what we can get, but if we got a choice in the stack, bring those hogs down here, man.
Oh yeah.
And the other thing is a mentality. It's not just the equipment. It's a mentality of when I come down a little bit on things like the F-35 is kind of a little bit where we went with F-16 too. It's a jack of all trades thing. Is can you do a lot of missions and do them effectively? Sure, but the A-10 was designed with a couple of, some people say anti-tank, but it's really close air support. It was really an A-1 Skyraider replacement. The venerable airplane in Vietnam that would come in and do the Sandy mission and take those bullets and get those survivors out. It was an airplane that would come in with tons of ordnance and tons of time on station and get the job done. Wasn't pretty. It took some bullets doing it, but it got it done and got you back home or back to the boat as well. But the point is that A-10 guys and gals really are all about one thing: that 18-year-old on the ground with the rifle, who's taking direct fire and needs help. And you can get there fast. You can see the situation on the ground. You train to it. You know what they're thinking. You hear the urgency in their voice. You hear the rounds popping off around the Humvee they're hiding behind. I mean, and you get in there and you go low and you get it done. And that's a very necessary tool, even more so in these urban conflicts where you have a slow slog house to house, and sometimes you encounter a pocket of resistance that you didn't plan on, and you need that extinguished fast, and it's well beyond the firepower that you got with you in your ruck. So I just think we're going to find ourselves in the situation going, man,
Sure would be
F-35s
nice.
are awesome, but it would sure be nice to have something that would get down there a little lower and take some fire and get something on the ground.